Hi everyone and welcome to the Allplane Podcast, where we talk with the movers and shakers that are redefining the future of commercial aviation. As usual, before we start, let me remind you once more that all previous episodes of this podcast, as well as many other aviation stories, are available on the Allplane website. That's Allplane.tv, Allplane.tv. Today we are going to talk about the technology that is at the cutting edge of aerospace science, hypersonic flight. That is, broadly speaking, when you fly at more than 5 times the speed of sound. Hypersonics have become fashionable recently, and not least because in a climate of rising geopolitical tension, some of the major powers like the US, China and Russia, for example, are in a sort of hypersonic arms race. But at the same time, a handful of startups have emerged that are looking at civilian applications for hypersonic technology. Can you imagine traveling across the Atlantic in just a couple of hours? Or getting from Europe to Australia and back on the same day? Well, our guest today, Mikhail Kokorich, the founder of Destinus, is working on an aircraft that might be able to do that. His startup, based in Switzerland, is a leading player in a wave of startups that are trying to make hypersonic flight more accessible. A physicist by background, before founding Destinus, Mikhail had a long experience as a successful entrepreneur, starting in retail but then moving on to found several aerospace and satellite technology companies. In our conversation, Mikhail doesn't shy away from talking about the formidable challenges ahead and the relatively long time that it will require for hypersonic air travel to become a regular occurrence. But he also outlines some of the factors that are boosting this current resurgence of hypersonic research. The interest of the military, of course, is one of them, but Destinus has also raised money from private investors and public research organizations to make this vision a reality and to go beyond the domain of the military to develop also civilian applications for air travel. If him and other entrepreneurs now working on commercial hypersonic applications succeed, this will be a truly disruptive technology and one that will transform forever the way we travel by air around the world. But it's best if we hear it all directly from Mikhail. So let me welcome him to the podcast. Hello, Mikhail. How are you?
Thank you. Nice meeting you.
Yeah, likewise. Just let me introduce you very briefly, because you are what I would call maybe a serial entrepreneur. You have a long career starting new projects, new ventures. You were successful in retail. Now you are in aerospace, and you are the founder of Destinus, which is a company that is basically developing something that is at the very, very edge of aerospace technology, hypersonic flight. So before we move on, I just would like to ask you a little bit about the background and how did you move into aerospace? Because I think your previous career was in retail. What brought you to aerospace and particularly this very challenging technology, which is hypersonic flight for commercial applications?
It's actually my career was for last more than 10 years in aerospace. So since 2010, 2011, I built several aerospace companies, launched dozens of satellites. We built several new approaches how to build aerospace stuff. So I would say, as I remember, the most of my career come in aerospace. Yes, before this, I had some period of the retail stuff. Even by background, I'm physicist, but at that time, I had the opportunity to build a retail company. But I'm longer in the business, basically since 19, than most of the Western people can imagine, because I started my business career at the age of 19. So by 46 now, I'm 27 years in the business. So as you know, the Western people, the kids till 30. So I started my adult life at 19. So it means
it's an
most
early
of
start.
my career come in aerospace. It's normal start. It's normal start, not for the gold billion. Yeah. So the gold billion have advantages of being protected by parents and live up to 30 with the parents. We didn't have this option because we, at that time, Russia, after the collapse of Soviet Union, definitely was not the golden billion.
And now you have this startup called Destinus that is based in Switzerland, but it has operations in other European countries, in I think in Germany, in Spain. We're going to talk now about Spain because you recently, I think, got some funding from the Spanish Technology Development Organization to build up your presence in Spain. Tell us a little bit about your current project, Destinus. You are trying to build something that is technologically very challenging, which is a hypersonic aircraft for the civilian market. What can you tell us about the origins of this project and where are you now with this?
Yeah, first, we are building a European company, and you see our team and our efforts spread between several countries because for modern projects in aerospace, maybe except for a couple countries, the one country is not able to do everything in-house. So I would say if you talk about now technological super civilization that capable to handle projects like hypersonic, like space, it's a three, I would say the center of this technological, super civilization. It's United States, it's China, and Europe as an entirety. No one country in Europe is capable to handle this type of the projects alone, because it's eventually all spread between the countries' capabilities and the people and the skills. It's normal because this was idea behind the Europe to build the bigger place where the bold projects can be decided. So we don't see about us as a Swiss company or French company or Spanish company or German company or other. We see us as we're a European company, not bounded by European Union, but in a geographical area, technologically, we're a European company.
Let's first maybe take a step back, because we've talked about hypersonics, and while I'm sure that many in the audience are familiar with the concept of hypersonics, I think it's good that we recap a little bit what hypersonics means. So it's basically, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's flying at speeds that are superior to Mach 5. So that's more than 5 times the speed of sound. Just to put some reference here, I think the fastest aircraft serially produced was the American SR-71, which I think reached around Mach 3.3 or something like that. So what you're trying to do is actually fly almost double that speed, which it's quite a challenge. Tell me a little bit more about how you intend to do that. What's the Destinus project about? What are the main features of this aircraft you are designing, and how the project has been evolving over the last few years?
Because there are no clear distinction what is a hypersonic speed. It's not like supersonic. Supersonic, this is a very clear physical number. It's called speed of sound, when you basically can put a boundary. So below it's subsonic, above it's supersonic, in the area of the supersonic it's a transonic. And this is just because of the character of the interaction of the plane and the air and the speed of sound, because information about any influence in a gas moved only with the speed of sound. So after you're flying more than speed of sound, you create the shock wave. Yeah. From this perspective, there are not so many difference if you're flying with a 2 Mach, 3 Mach, or 5 Mach. It's still supersonic speed. But something starts to happen differently when you're in an area of 5, 6 Mach. And this difference is that the thermal effects, basically the heating of the air in the shock wave, start to play important role. So at this speed, the temperature in a shock layer start to be hot enough, so the gas start to dissociate, and it's not anymore like air like we see. It's a complex chemical compound, and the thermal effects start to influence on your flying vehicle. So it means you have a considerable heating from this shock wave and from the interaction with the air. But this is not like a specific boundary. It's not that say 5 Mach below something not happening, after something happens. The hypersonic in general is this area where it started before, like around 5, 6 Mach. But 4 Mach, it's also almost hypersonic. It's a high hypersonic, and 3 Mach, it's actually close to hypersonic. There are no big difference between 3 Mach and 5 Mach. There are some difference, but it's already, you see some effects. Yeah. So it's not clear boundary. Say below 5 Mach, it's just supersonic, but not hypersonic. After 5 Mach, it's hypersonic. It's area, yeah, where the thermal effect start to influence. Yeah. And, people actually built the flying vehicles that was flying more than 5 Mach. First, it's any re-entry vehicles. So when you're flying to space, when you re-enter, you fly with a 50 Mach, with a much higher speed. So people know how to do this. It was done many times with with the re-entry capsules. It was done many times with a winged plane, like Space Shuttle or the Soviet Buran. So people know how to do it. And it was also some tests with flying vehicles on the ground, like X-15. Yeah, this was a rocket plane in the 60s, studied by US intensively. And they tested like a 5 Mach plus. Yeah, so they actually flew 5 Mach.
Yeah, I think that's still the record.
Yeah, for the manned plane, yes. I think for unmanned plane, for unmanned like hypersonic vehicle, probably the fastest is Russian cruise missiles, the hypersonic missiles. But for the manned vehicle, it was the fastest, that ever was reached. And for the planes, more or less a takeoff from the ground, from the land, because this was dropped from the plane, X-15. The fastest was, SR-71, and almost the same speed was also MiG-25. The Soviet MiG-25, that also 3.2 Mach. So it's basically the same speed level. Yeah, and we come to idea to build hypersonic plane, and it's interesting enough, it's not only we as a company building it, so it's actually at the same time several companies, several groups of people decided to build it. So in Europe, so far we are the only company who is doing this, but there are in US 2 players, Hermes Hypersonics, which heavily funded by United States Department of Defense, and another investor, it's Sam Altman, who was founder of OpenAI, ChatGPT. Everybody knows ChatGPT. He is one of the big investors there. And another company, it's Venus Aerospace, which funded by my previous lead investor in my previous company, Momentus Prime Movers. They also building hypersonic plane, also get money from US militaries. And another Australian company, Hypersonics, which worked with the Kratos and also got recently the big contract from US Department of Defense. Yeah, we see that many hypersonic applications now have also defense implication. And for sure, before we will be able to build a passenger plane with which will be capable safely move people, we also will be going to the unmanned hypersonic domain. Yeah, unmanned hypersonic domain. And the only market for this unmanned vehicles is military. There are no other markets. So it means our first product 100% will be for militaries. And only then for the passengers.
I think your project has been evolving a little bit as well, because I remember the first time I heard about it, the main idea was to do logistics, I think, to carry express cargoes as a sort of courier service between continents. And you even mention some very high speeds like Mach 15 or something like that. And that concept has been evolving over time, isn't it?
Yeah. So first, when we worked and looked at more, let's say, closer look on a potential speed, we decided at some stage, basically after a few months of company development, that we want to build air breathing engine with a turbine-based combined cycle, which is a combination of the turbojet engine, existing engine, plus ramjet, which both been built and tested many, many times. Turbojet engines, like it's built for many jet fighters, and the ramjet is used on many rockets, and we're going to use this for the hydrogen. And it basically increased the speed how we can be in the market, because we can immediately jump and build something with a 10, 15 Mach with a rocket engine, or to build something that can be on the market much faster and earlier. And this is like TBCC or turbine-based combined cycle. So we decided to focus on a 5-6 Mach speed because it will be basically several years faster. Yeah, several years faster than going with a rocket engine or with anything like this. And regarding like the final use, I think this is a really minor part because it's not influence any part of our development. The only difference it's on the slides yet because we are not building passenger or cargo plane, and we will not be building this for 10 years because it's so far in the future. It's like we're building our technologies that initially will be used by military. In 10 years, we will start to build something like for the passengers. So it means the only changes between the cargo or passengers or this stuff, it's only slides. So it's not influence on our any technological development. And we decided to, let's say, in a slides, position ourselves for passengers because it's just larger market. And because we understood after interaction with a regulator that from a regulatory standpoint, it will be no difference. Fly with a cargo with passengers because you are flying over the people. Doesn't matter. Yeah, doesn't matter. And then the cargo market, the planes for cargo market, it's 100 times less than passengers because actually in the civil market, nobody building specialized cargo planes, neither Airbus nor Boeing. So I would say this was stupid idea to think about that we will be able to build cargo planes because its market do not exist. It's tiny market. People use passenger planes to move cargo mostly.
And what has happened in recent times that startups like you or like you mentioned Hermeus, for example, in the US, I had the chance to speak with one of the founders, Skyler, a few weeks ago for an article I did for Aerotime about this topic. It seems that more or less at the same time, all these projects have emerged as startups. And this is a domain, as you mentioned, that until now or still today, it's pretty much something that the large nation states do for their military, etc. What has happened that has given a chance to startup companies to also experiment in this market? Is it because the technological barriers have become smaller, or is it because there's some new knowledge that has become available?
So it's several reasons. First, as far as we know, no one technological nation working on a passenger hypersonic plane by destination. It was some studies, so European, it was several European projects. Europe, by the way, it's one of the only countries, one of the few countries which doing stuff publicly. Yeah. If you look on US studies or Chinese, they become classified many years ago and there are nothing published. In Europe, the studies like Hexafly, LabCat, there was for almost couple dozen years, and all the studies is public. So it's actually everything was published, and we can use it. Anybody can use it. Basically, there are no much difference. Some results of the studies, but I would say in general, the countries, as we know, not developing the passenger planes. Yeah, because this is a company what is doing. Boeing, Airbus. So countries are very seldom to do it by itself. So what country is developing is what we know, the hypersonic weapon, which have very big difference with the hypersonic plane. It's except for the word hypersonic, nothing the same. Because a hypersonic weapon, a single time, a gliding warhead that basically can maneuver in a last approach to the target. So the systems like Patriot or S-500 cannot intercept it. That's all. Yeah. And the plane, it's a different thing. Plane, it's it's a flying vehicle which have propulsion, can take off, can fly, can land. So except for the word hypersonic, there are nothing common about it. So people think, okay, this hypersonic something, again, it's a different thing. It's unrelated. The meteorites that enter the Earth's atmosphere also hypersonic. So we're not telling this hypersonic stuff that. What happened? I think several areas. So first, in general, now it starts to be possible to raise big enough funds and money to start this type of the projects, because look at the early stage funding for these companies. They've been all considerable. Yeah. It's not like a create a application. It's dozens of millions. So for our seed round, we raised like 27 million. Then we raised a couple dozens even before the bigger round that we have. Hopefully will be closing in some near future. And the same for Hermes, same for Venus. Then technological disruption in the manufacturing also occurred last 10 years. So now you can build very complex structure from heat-resistant materials like steels with regenerative cooling, for example, which we are using, hydrogen for regenerative cooling. The digital modeling powerful enough so you don't need to use prohibitively expensive wind tunnels, because if you need to use wind tunnels, it will be millions and millions of dollars. Yeah, it's extremely expensive. So now you can do a lot in a digital form. Yeah, which was not the story. If you are in a San Francisco Bay Area, you may see these big hangars in a Moffett Field Air Base. It's called NASA Ames Research Center. And this is the largest in the US aerodynamic tubes where SR-71 was tested in a full scale. And this wind tunnel was operational during the night. So it can consume these hundreds of megawatts of power from the entire Bay Area. to make it. So it's only government was able to pay such a big bills. For private company it would be impossible. And I think another angle is you see that all companies in US or Australia, which is a kind of part of US almost now from military standpoint, they all funded by military. And here is like very simple explanation for this. So the main adversary countries for US or for Western countries, Russia and China, they're extremely advanced in the hypersonic weapon. And against hypersonic weapon, there are no good protection because the speed of the warhead and the ability to maneuver it make it almost impossible to intercept it. So basically, the modern air defense system cannot intercept it. You can destroy air carrier or you destroy nuclear power plant with a hit, and then it's very difficult to intercept it. So one of the ways to intercept it is actually intercept it early enough, so before it starts to maneuver on some like early part of trajectory. And then for this, hypersonic plane would be the good choice, or supersonic hypersonic, so you can fly and you can intercept it on a part of trajectory when it's still maneuvering. And as we think that this may be one of the reasons now that the US military are ready to pay the big checks, or in China, I think it's happened the same. They also funding some private startups which develop hypersonic unmanned drones as a defense layer, as initial defense layer. Yeah, this is not yet story in Europe. Yeah, we hope it will be the story in Europe, but it's not yet story in Europe. So this is probably another reason why now is so active development in this area, because there are early customer. And for all aeronautic technologies, without exception, for all aeronautic technologies, military was always early customer. And we shouldn't be here over modest saying that, hey, military is first customer.
Yeah. So this technology, from what I understand, I'm not an expert in propulsion technologies, but from what I read, it's composed of two elements. One is let's say a conventional turbo engine, and the other one is a ramjet that is the part that gives this hypersonic speed. Is this correct? And can you tell us a bit more about what's special about this ramjet technology that allows for these super high speeds?
Ramjet is the simplest engine that is possible. Frankly speaking, the first power rockets that was built, it was used like an analog of the almost ramjet. And ramjet is widely used by dozens of rockets, dozens of missiles, different missiles produced in every country in the world. So there are nothing more simple in a good sense than ramjet. Ramjet is a very simple engine. It's basically just tube which compress the air. When air enters this combustion chamber, it's subsonic, it's combust, and then create a thrust. So there are no magic, no tricks, no secrets. It's all known. It's kind of, it's simple than turbojet engine. There are some difficulties to combine them together because you need to switch from one mode to another. Yeah, you need to switch the flow. And again, here's like a lot new, but I would say in theory everything is known because people was building supersonic planes for a long time, and almost all good supersonic planes have variable geometry index. So it means it's not some magical secret that behind this. Yeah, and this is a good about this TBCC combination of the turbojet engine and the ramjet that basically nothing.
But is this ramjet you're building it, or you are getting it from some supplier? Where do you get a ramjet?
The ramjet you can build at home.
How?
It's tube. It's just tube.
Okay.
It's just tube. There are no rotating device. It's the simplest thing that you can build. I mean, you can build ramjet and basically be enthusiast at home. And this is not exaggeration.
So you're building your own. You're building your own ramjet.
For sure. There are no like on the market ramjets because you build it up to the your size and scale. We're going to use initially existing turbojet engines because we have like some turbojet engines that we can use, not turbofan turbojet. Yeah, so it's not engine from Airbus or Boeing. It's engines from jet fighters. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but ramjet we're building because there are no on the market ramjets because the planes didn't use ramjets for a long time. In the 60s they used it, but then it was like nobody used in a planes ramjet. And ramjet is a primitive, in a good sense. The ramjet by itself it's a pretty simple engine. There are no problems in ramjet. The problems in intakes and nozzle in all the combination, but not in the ramjet itself.
Okay. And we've been talking a lot about the speed, which is obviously the main distinctive feature of this project. But what about the other performance indicators, let's say things like range, and also considering you have the passenger market in your mind, how is the passenger experience going to be like? How many passengers are you planning to bring on board? How is it going to be different from a normal jet? For example, I'm assuming from what I've seen in the renderings, there are not going to be windows, for example, in the plane. What can you tell us about this aspect of the project?
Until the stage that we are using existing engines, because basically existing engines are engines from jet fighters. We can only with existing engines build a reasonably small plane, which can carry 20, 25 people, 8,000 kilometers. So basically transatlantic. Yeah. And this is the limitation of existing engines. So basically with existing engines, with a few engines, 4 engines, we can build a plane which can carry from Paris to New York in 1 hour and a half, 20, 25 people, basically first class. Yeah. Because nobody building the big turbojet engines, because turbojet engines built for jet fighters. So then the another question, what can be theoretically the biggest plane which we can build? If we build our own engine, yeah, or with partnership, then basically the main limitation in this case will be the existing airport infrastructure, because the plane is pretty large, different geometry, it's have hydrogen, which is a light liquid. And based on this, we also did a calculation of we can build up to 400 people probably, yeah, and then beyond this would be impossible using existing airport infrastructure, yeah. So something with the size of the Airbus 380, this is probably the largest which you can build. What will be the final design? It will be 100 people, 200 people, 300 people. We don't know yet, because we're not gonna start designing this for many years from now, because we will be starting design hypersonic drone in a few years, and then we'll be starting design potentially the first small plane in a few years. Yeah. So it means like what will be our Airbus 380? We don't need to think about this like for a long time, but it can be a few hundred people.
Yeah, well, that would be impressive enough. Have you thought already how the passenger experience would be like, how the cabin would be like?
It's kind of last thing that we are thinking about now. You know, we can spend for this time, but it will be just crystal ball gazing. Probably will be no windows, so the people will be sitting. But you know, what do you mean? Like what type of the chairs, what type of the color? I think it's it would be strange if we start to think about this.
Understood. Well, where are you now with the project? Which milestones have you reached? And what are the most immediate milestones that we can expect in the near future? I have seen that you tested 2 small-scale prototypes in 2021 and 2022. I think the last one was in October last year. And I think you were planning also a test in the coming months, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, like we are flying with the subsonic prototypes basically to test low-speed aerodynamics. We have 2 models which we use for this. We are building now also the supersonic prototype, which we will present in Le Bourget Air Show. This will be the hydrogen supersonic prototype, but we will probably start to fly it next year, supersonic one, and we will test the conversion of turbojet engines to hydrogen afterburner. So like many pieces of the final system, like hydrogen tanks, hydrogen pumps, hydrogen turbojet engines, afterburner. This will be tested in the next supersonic plane.
When you say supersonic, what Mach?
No, 1.2, 1.3.
Okay. You mentioned also hydrogen. That's actually one of the questions I wanted to ask you. Now there's a lot of concern about sustainability. Everything that promises to fly faster is immediately under scrutiny about what sort of impact this is going to have on the environment. In your case, you have been opting for hydrogen. I imagine it's liquid hydrogen. What can you tell us about the state of this research onto the fueling part of the project? And where is this hydrogen going to come from? How is it going to be stored? How are you going to be fitting all this inside the aircraft? I guess in interior tanks to store all this liquid hydrogen under very low temperatures.
So, yeah, for sure. It's only option to use liquid hydrogen. There are no option to use gaseous hydrogen because The gaseous hydrogen have extremely low efficiency of the storage. For every 100 kilogram of tank, you can store only 5 kilogram of gaseous hydrogen, which is like a beyond any optimal stuff. For the liquid hydrogen, for 10 kilogram tank, finally you can store 100 kilogram of liquid hydrogen. Yeah, so like gaseous it also doesn't work. Stupid idea for the planes. Even for the cars, I think it's a stupid idea, not only for the planes. So people know how to deal with liquid hydrogen. So in Europe, it was two schools of using liquid hydrogen, primarily for rocketry. I'm not talking about the small lab applications. I'm talking about the big one. So it was one in around the Ariane space, with Air Liquide, Ariane, and then school around this. And second was in the Soviet Union, because also Soviet Union built Energia rocket in the upper stages with the hydrogen, and they exported a lot of technologies outside, like India used a lot of Soviet technologies with the hydrogen. So it means there are some engineering schools how to deal with liquid hydrogen, and now liquid hydrogen is a fuel of the choice for many mobility applications, future mobility applications, not only planes, it's potentially for the long-range trucks, for the buses, for trains, for ships. And yes, we're going to build a tank which will be somehow integrated inside the structure. And we're actually building the first tank for the first plane that will start to fly next year. And this will be liquid hydrogen tank. And it will be the first plane with a liquid hydrogen, which should cross the speed, the first plane in the history of aviation.
Wow.
So first plane.
In-house.
I mean, we're not collecting ore from the ground and building the metal. It's stupid.
Yeah.
I mean, we make a design and somebody build for us for scale.
Okay.
But it means we building. Because if like a Air or Boeing, Rolls-Royce, it's like designing engines and then multiple suppliers build for them impellers. It doesn't mean that Rolls-Royce is not building, so we don't need to be like in Northern Korea and try to build everything out. So when people come to us and say, okay, where you have like all these machinery built, and I said, I would be the stupid entrepreneur if I would buy the machinery which costs like millions of dollars to do one detail which I can order for dozens of thousands.
Yeah, indeed. So can we say that your aircraft is going to be a green aircraft because it's going to be using hydrogen?
So it will use hydrogen, so it will not emit carbon dioxide, because it's hydrogen, but it will not be green. Like any plane engines will not be green. So you have nitrogen oxide emission because it's combustion. You'll have water emission on high altitude, which is worse than carbon dioxide, can be worse than carbon dioxide. You have noise pollution, you have everything. So I think we as a humanity should be also open that we have some limits for the green, but it should be okay to pay some penalty for the convenience. If you're not ready to pay the penalty, don't fly with the planes. Don't use the cars. Just, live in the forest.
True. Indeed. Yeah. There's always some impact. Yeah.
We are using hydrogen not because of the building being green. We're using hydrogen because it's a fuel of choice, because it's a good coolant. All the projects that use hydrogen, but basically then sacrifice the performance of the plane, like all this stupid zero green avia, all this one, it's a bad approach, because you cannot build the business only to be the green. We use the hydrogen not because it's green, because it's a good fuel for the hypersonic speed. The green, okay, but I tell you, the planes are not green in general. Carbon, even though they're not emitting CO2, they emit like nitrogen oxide, everything. This is what we'll have, so I don't want to say as we are a green project, because aviation is not green in general with any fuel.
I think in Spain, you recently got some funding from the organization that promotes technological development in Spain. From what I read, you might actually be building some capacities there, industrial facilities. What can you tell us about this?
So we got like two R&D grants. We participated in a concourse and a tender and got two R&D grants in a part of consortium. In one to build the test centers in the Torrejon airport with ITP Aero and INTA, which is a Spanish military institute responsible for aeronautics. And I think we just had a good proposal to test it, to build this facility, and we're gonna use it to test our hydrogen and non-hydrogen engines. and ITP Aero will be testing their own stuff, and the Spanish military defense probably their own projects. So, and then it's a co-financing, so it's like they partially funded by these European grants, partially funded by us, so it's a co-financing. Mm-hmm. And the second grant we got it's also co-financing to build a hydrogen tank, to build additional infrastructure, to build a pump, and to convert engine to hydrogen. So we got this like for another. It's still R&D. It's not cover any facility. It's not cover any production, because we are in many years far from any production of the passenger planes. Yeah, mm-hmm. On the passenger planes. And where we're going to build the test facility to build our military projects before, it will depend where we will get customers, funding. Yeah, who will be our customers for this?
Yeah. Right now, you mentioned earlier that you have raised a few tens of millions of euros for this project. Do you have any order already, or that's too early to tell?
Let's put it this way. We don't have any orders for our hypersonic stuff. Mm-hmm. Just because we are not yet in a stage to basically even accept any orders, because we are still in R&D stage. We have some projects in a slower speed, but it's all classified.
Okay, understood. And what are the time milestones that we can expect from now on? Are there specific dates that we should mark in the calendar to look for tests or achievements in this long process towards the hypersonic flight?
We're going to test next year, as I told you, our supersonic prototype, but it will be not one specific date. It will be many dozens of flights with a different, like a flight profile with different objectives, like initially only with the turbojet engines, then with the turbojet with afterburner, subsonic, and then supersonic. So it will be the whole flight program, which probably will last for many quarters.
If everything goes according to plan, is there a long time horizon where you think it's going to be feasible to fly commercially hypersonic between continents?
Difficult to say. It can take 10 years. If everything will be good, with a small one, it can take 15 years. It can take 20 years. Look at SpaceX. Do you know how old is SpaceX?
I will need to check. I don't know now, top of my mind.
22 years.
Okay. I would have said something between 10 and 15, but yeah, much longer actually.
22 years, yeah. So they about just now to build finally that something different. Starship. Before this was basically was kind of built by Americans, Europeans, Soviets a long time ago, like Falcon 9, good rocket, but nothing extra revolutionary except the landing one. So it can take a lot of time. Yeah, it can take a lot of time, and it's normal. And it's like it's normal for this business. That to ultimate goal, it can take a lot of time. We don't know what obstacles will be, but we know that now it's possible, and it can be probably possible pretty fast, like 10, 15 years, which is very fast.
Actually, I was thinking, if you guys are successful, even if it's a 20-year time horizon, which in aviation is not so long, a conventional aircraft program can take 10 years easily. Yeah. You would completely transform the way that people travel long distances. Because we are talking with hypersonic flight, you could, for example, travel between Europe and Asia or Australia in a matter of 4 hours, 3 hours, something like that, crossing the Atlantic in a couple of hours. So I can not even imagine the sort of social and economic impact this could have in the way that people move around the world. I don't know if that's something that you guys have somehow quantified in your studies, in your evaluations.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely did some estimations and studies, but again, it's more to get the potential market. But we see that this is can be the very big part of the market because people now don't fly for a long distance because it takes time long. Have you personally been in New Zealand?
No, never. Unfortunately, because I would really, really like to go there, but it's so far away.
Have you been in French Polynesia?
No, I haven't. No.
have you been in Terra del Fuego?
Where?
Terra del Fuego. Yeah.
No, I haven't. No. So, all those places are in my list, but haven't been, unfortunately.
But have you been in Mallorca?
I have.
Okay, Canary Islands.
I have. Long time ago, though, but I would like to go back.
But still reasonable because it's close. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's reasonably close. Yeah. So this is what we see. For the people still to fly intercontinental, it's much harder. You can fly within Europe many times a week. You can, if you live in Madrid, you can go to Paris. If you live in Geneva, you can go to Munich on the same day, come back, or next day. But to do the same even with US, which is pretty close, it's much harder. To do this with Asia or like Australia or New Zealand, it's impossible. You need like a week or 2 weeks. In our modern age, it's too much time.
Yes, indeed. And would these hypersonic aircraft have to go through a specific certification process? Is there even a framework that the regulator has in place for this type of situations?
There are no framework.
Okay. So it would need to be an ad hoc process.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, the whole thing it's pretty challenging, but so fascinating because, I mean, as I mentioned just 1 second ago, it has the potential to completely transform the way we understand air travel. Because here on this podcast, we cover innovation in a broad sense. So we are often looking at people doing new things, doing things in different novel ways. But this hypersonics is really, really cutting edge. And I really appreciate you making time today to share some details about this.
Yeah, thank you. And I hope you had an enjoy of the very direct way how I'm talking. This is not common for the culture because usually people say it in this soft, lavish way, say, yeah, we are green, we are doing this. No, we need to be very clear, understand what we are doing. Where is money? First, money in military. If Europe will not give military money for this, forget about this. Europeans will buy from Chinese or Americans. Number one, no green aviation. It's bullshit. The aviation will never be green. It will be somehow green, but partially green. Yeah. Also should understand this directly. Otherwise, it's like self-deception. To do hydrogen just for subsonic flight, just to be green, is a stupid idea. So all companies will become bankrupt. It's a stupid idea. It will never be, because you cannot build a business just to be green. This needs to be efficient. Yeah.
Understood. Okay. Well, thank you so much, and all the best with the project.
Thank you.
Before you go, and if you like this podcast, a quick reminder that it would be absolutely great if you could please give it a rating on Apple, Spotify, or whichever platform you're using, or recommend it to a friend or whomever might be interested. Thank you very much, and see you soon.